So now we're going to move into the duct system. So again, just like our oocytes, how we traveled around that oocyte, now we're going to travel around and follow these little sperm throughout the entire male reproductive tract. So we just made them in the seminiferous tubules. So now what we're going to do is we're going to follow them through the ducts. So let's take a look at the duct network. This is just the very beginning here. So we have these things called the rete testes right in here. The rete testes are just going to receive the sperm from the seminiferous tubules. They are lined with simple cuboidal epithelium, and it's going to have microvilli. So from the rete testes, I kind of drew over it, but you have these little efferent ductules. You might remember efferent term from the lymphatic system, from the kidneys. Remember, they are going to exit. So we are exiting out of the seminiferous tubules. These are lined with ciliated and non-ciliated columnar epithelium. So they're ciliated because they're going to help move that sperm where they need to go next, which is the epididymis. And then the non-ciliated is going to help absorb any excess fluid that came from the seminiferous tubules over with the sperm. So now what happens is they are going to drain into the epididymis. So here is the epididymis. You are going to have the head of the epididymis here. You are going to have the body, and again, where it begins and where the other one ends is futile, doesn't matter. But the tail is, of course, going to be right in here. So it's still kind of coiled structure. And again, it kind of helps with surface area and things like that. All right, so this shows the epididymis, but not as well as the other picture did. So what happens here in the epididymis is that they're basically going to mature here. They kind of finish the whole process of spermiogenesis in here. Their flagellum is going to finish developing in here. So whenever they first enter into the epididymis, they kind of look like mature sperm, but they can't move like mature sperm. By the time they leave the distal portions, the end portion of the epididymis, then they are going to be able to move. They are motile after this. However, they need to be stored for a certain amount of time. Usually it can be a couple of months where they are going to store here and they are going to fully mature here. If they are expelled too soon and they're not fully mature, then what happens is that you are going to release sperm that are not motile. Infertility. They can't get to where they need to go. They can't move their little flagellum like they need to. If they are ejected too late, or sorry, if ejection never happens, if men tend to store sperm for a long period of time, meaning that they don't ejaculate for a long period of time, then that's fine. The old sperm actually are degenerated and reabsorbed by the epididymis here. So the epididymis is also going to help reabsorb and concentrate fluid that comes from the seminiferous tubules. And this is the only time where males actually need a little bit of estrogen. So males do secrete small amounts of estrogen, and what it does is it actually helps with this reabsorption process. Sperm tend to, here early on, they tend to need it concentrated. They don't like it to be very dilute, to be in a very dilute fluid here. So it's really important to concentrate the fluid that they're in the epididymis. So from here, we're going to go to the vas deferens. So let me show you guys a pathway that we're going to take. So sperm are going to be made in the seminiferous tubules. They move into the epididymis. And from here, we are in the vas deferens here, the ductus deferens. And I'm going to keep on filling this out as we go throughout the chart. We're going to make a little mnemonic with it here. So what happens here in the ductus deferens? It's actually very long. Sperm are going to enter it here, and it is just basically going to travel on through. It is going to go all the way from the scrotum. It's going to go through the spermatic cord, through the inguinal canal. It is going to go on the back part of the bladder, where it is going to eventually connect to form the ejaculatory duct. So it doesn't form anything with the bladder. It just is going to go back on that way. So if we take a look at this, you can see it. This is actually the posterior view, and you can see the bladder, and then there's that posterior view, and it's showing those vas deferens. So very, very long right there. So what the ductus wall is layered with is pseudo-stratified ciliated columnar epithelium, but we also have a muscularis layer that has 3 different smooth muscle layers, and the reason why, it's because it is going to move the sperm through. I know that I said in the epididymis they are going to be fully motile, but they actually don't have any fuel yet to move the flagellum. They need to have some kind of fuel, right? They need to have glucose or something to move it. Well, they haven't come into contact with anything yet. So even though they are capable of moving in the epididymis, anatomically they are, physiologically they're not able to yet until they come in contact with some kind of fuel. So we'll talk about that here in a minute. So that's why we need the ductus deferens, that muscularis layer, to have some kind of peristalsis to move the sperm through the ductus deferens. So we'll also take a look at what causes this. We'll talk about ejaculation and how it's going to, of course, cause the movement through here. All right, from here we are going to reach the ejaculatory duct. So we went through the vas deferens, and here is the ejaculatory duct. The ejaculatory duct is just going to be where the sperm and some of the first components of the seminal fluid are going to meet here. And that's about it. And next is going to be the urethra. It's going to go through the urethra. And the urethra is going to transport semen from the ejaculatory ducts through that penile opening. I'm not going to put an O there. So this is going to be the pathway of sperm. This doesn't make any sense, right? But this does. So you can remember the pathway of sperm with 7-up. And N basically means nothing. It doesn't stand for anything. It's not that the sperm moved to nothingness. It just means that I need a placeholder and I need to make my 7-up. And if I didn't have an N, it'd be 7-up, and it wouldn't make any sense. So that's your pathway. So the urethra is going to have 3 different components, and I don't think there is a picture. Yeah, there's a picture right here. You are going to have first the prostatic urethra, and that is going to be of course, the part of the urethra that's going to go through the prostate. You are going to have the membranous urethra, but here the membranous urethra is so small. Like right here, tiny, tiny little thing. And then the rest of it is going to be the spongy or penile urethra. That's going to be the longest portion, and it is going to, of course, vary with every man, right? Because penis size varies with every man. And since it goes through the penis, then that's why it's going to vary with every single man. So that is going to be the longest part of the urethra there. And that is going to be the pathway. So we'll talk about with ejaculation. You can see, remember the urethra is going to be shared with the urinary system. So we're going to talk about in ejaculation and orgasm how we make sure that sperm goes through that hole during ejaculation and not urine, because that would not be good at all.